to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Questions and comments? There's none, so we'll move on to, in your packet, you should have had the minutes from the regular meeting for October 20th, 2014. If I'm looking at those minutes, I don't see any additions or corrections, but one thing I would recommend that, when we do old business, as item number 2, it says Mr. Tiger's treasurer report, I think it needs to indicate the date of the treasurer report we're reviewing on there for the minute. Otherwise, I don't see any addition correction. I'd like to dispense this meeting, reading of the minutes. Anybody have any? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 20, 2014.
Have a motion? And a second? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Treasurer report, Mr. Jason Talley.
Okay, I think at the previous meeting, we were presenting the August financials. And these are the September financials since, of course, we wrapped up the end of the year. And so this goes through September 30th, 2014. I did have a conversation with Connie, and I know that Tommy had several conversations. And do I completely understand it? Maybe not, but it has to do with something that they're having to close out in the city books before they can add the new budgeted items in the accounting software. And so there's still a few outstanding things they've got to tweak. Once they load our budget, then of course we'll have our current reports. But she said she was waiting on something to close out, and it doesn't specifically pertain to our books, I don't believe, just the city accounting in general, I guess. So what I asked her to do is provide me a couple of check registers for October, November, at least so you can see what the checks were. It's nothing out of the norm, but we're going to kind of focus today on year end and show you where we're at. If you look at this cover page right here, I guess the part that tells the biggest story is you look at that middle column and you see our total revenue. And then at the bottom, you see our total expenditures of $381,205 for a net, gain of $479,029 after expenses. So if you look to the left, based on what our revenue was budgeted, we were expecting to see about a $194,000 reserve held over. But instead, of course, we're seeing a much larger one than that. And of course, that's fiscal management. At the same time, revenues were very strong as far as tax revenues. So if you would go now to the first page of the report, we'll just kind of look at the current period right now. Sales tax, we'll address that on a different sheet. You see the warehouse rental, you see our payments for the various loans we have, comes down there to the total of $70,031, okay? That's actually our current month for the month of September. If you turn the page, we have the salaries, of course, didn't money there. I will point out, we were over just a little bit. If you recall, when Tommy came on in October 1 of 2013, Mr. Ramirez remained on board for a while. We paid him in addition to Tommy to kind of get him acclimated to that. If you come on down to supplies, advertising and marketing, that was a reimbursement to the Maples for the facade renovation on the city cleaners. The other was just miscellaneous stuff, travel, training, expense. You see fuel, utilities, normal stuff there. Legal fees, that's going to be a combination of property work that's been done at the same time. the property transfers. I know Mr. Berger's been working on some of that. I don't know that the property transfers is reflected in this statement in September, but you'll see some other legal stuff in October and November that's related to these, I think that he's preparing for the city transfer property, okay? Let's see, you see their office lease. You see a remaining payment for the 990 reporting of $1163.85 for accounting. That would be the final accounting payment for the preparation of the 990 that has to be prepared for this organization. You see a bond payment. In March and September, there's bond cost due, and that's that payment there of $116,186, all right? Come on over to the next page, just simple maintenance and expenses associated with the beer warehouse there, total of $717.70 for the month. If you flip the page, this is the depot, which just amounts to, I guess, a utility expense there.
That is, and vandalism.
Well, yeah, but that's probably not reflected in this one. Only 65 bucks.
That and the city warrant.
Actually, it might be because,
We have a nightlight.
oh yeah, that's what it's for, okay. All right, let's go on now to the business park, which is page 6. We have some engineering fees that were paid out. Really, for that month, that's about all that was paid. And so we had a total budget of $187,000 for that park. We've spent about $88,000 from various things. Still came under budget. We did exhaust some line items, but still as a whole for the project, we came under because we didn't start on some of the other water retention projects until after we get the roads wrapped up. Veterans Park, just some basic, I guess that's properly coded there, the 3514, that seems awful low for mowing, but, and you know, I'm not asking you to think back 2 months, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Connie about that. But anyway, it says mowing, I'm not sure that that's actually recorded in the right place for $35.14.
Yeah, that's all that we mowed.
I'm gonna check on that. Okay, so if you look at the back page, page 9, you know, year-to-date actual, of course, shows us $479,029, which matches the front page in terms of total dollars after expenses. We did have a negative month, of course, just because we had the big bond payment due in that month. But for the year, overall, things look really good. If you turn the page now to the tax reporting, it shows us the sales tax that comes into the entity each month. So we have the complete year there, total of $793,536, which is 118% above what was, well, 18% above what was projected. So that's great. And it also shows you the gradual increase through the years. So clearly the local economy and activity here has had a huge impact on this group. So I think that pretty much speaks for itself, but hopefully that sales tax revenue is just here to stay, will continue to increase because that allows this entity and others to do more with those dollars. If you really, I think I'll conclude it there because the expenses, yes.
It is, I'd like to know that 6:39, and we've been joined by Ram Ramirez. Thank you, Ram, for joining. You need a second, please continue.
I think I'll just move on now to the page where if you'll turn about 3 more pages, you'll see a dollar of $7,936. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's miscoded, so I made a note of that to correct that. If you notice here, it says $7,936. It's not numbered. That's actually the expenses for the month of October. Ram, we don't have the October and November financials yet due to some, they're having to load the budget or something in the system, and I'm not quite sure what that means, but anyway, we did the September, and then this is just expenses, so I wanted people to see the expenses. Pretty much traditional expenses, Berry and Partners is more fees incorporated there as it relates to the business park, more legal, and then of course LM Construction was probably what, beer warehouse cleaning and those kind of things and maintenance, and then Barry Morrison was shredding. Okay. The Grantland's Shop Center, that was a workshop that Tommy attended about grant writing, which I think is a great thing to go to, because those are things that we need to know how to do. The next page.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question on that before? It just so happens it talked about 1099s, yes, no, yes, no. Talked about Hyde merger with it. Why is it not noted on a couple of these other individuals that, yes, those should be 1099s,
Where's that at?
right here underneath the 1099. I'm assuming that N says no, Y for yes, so yes, we're gonna 1099 Howard, but we're not gonna 1099 L&M and Mary
Yeah.
Morrison. We might want to check on that.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense because,
If you would, just check on
of course, the 1099s wouldn't be due until January
That's correct.
2015. So we'll make sure that we,
that. Yeah, so they're probably just running tabs for who, it can automatically kick one out, who it doesn't, and it may be.
right. But good catch there. I did help them identify all the folks last year that needed 1099s, and so I worked with Laura and then the CPA, I forgot her name, I'm drawing the blank, but anyway, they got those prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then the last page is Phelps, the Payment and Remittance Center. That's basically the credit card, which Tommy usually uses for office supplies and miscellaneous things like that that he needs there, at the office. That right there is the final $990 payment for the accounting firm. Okay, that Alonzo I can't pronounce that, but anyway. And then Wilson County Tax. Once again, I didn't have time to go through these in detail today, but do you even know what that's for?
Yes.
What?
There are some of the properties that we took back from,
Oh, yeah, okay.
out in the industrial park. During the
Right.
period of time that they owned it, taxes
Right.
would accrued on that, and we had to pay
Okay.
taxes. Now that we own it, it's tax exempt again.
Right. Now, see, so something's kind of off in this report, because you got Barry Morrison, it shows him as a yes for 1099, so I'll be sure that we get that cleared up. Barry Morrison is providing the shredding. I haven't been out to the business park lately, but I do know that the Veterans Park area really looks nice, and it's, it looks nice. The only thing I would suggest, and this is a little off the treasurer's report, is we still have some piles that we need to just get cleaned up maybe, so he doesn't have to mow around them. But that's kind of off the treasurer's report, but anyway, we'll talk more about that later.
Well, I think, I was out there last week and I saw where he shredded, where that channel comes through east, coming west, up to the bridge. He just made a path there, but then on the sides, he left it, especially on the north side. And it's grown, and then across the bridge is still the same. He didn't do nothing over there on that side.
That we talked about.
Well, I was talking about the VA, but anyway, I guess we'll stay on topic, and then that was my
I
fault.
think he came in and bailed on the north, yeah, and the other, I think he's gonna come in and try to mow that, but we've gotta work around raining and all that stuff, but.
Okay, so that concludes my report.
Can you give it account balances? Account balances.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what?
Okay. You wanna just jot these down? The checking, this is as of today. Checking is $174,336.81. And then the money market has $1,381,981.02. So the first one is 174,336.81. 1,381,981.02. Okay.
Anyone have any other questions for Mr. Collier's financial report? Can't tell you enough again, Jason,
Yeah.
much appreciated.
Well, you know, Connie's doing most of the work on this now, and she does a good job. There's a few things we need to just kind of improve communications on, but really she's always been available. I do want to point out that the IRS tried to hit us for a $9,000 penalty, which relates to a tax filing last year, which was made on time, and we had proof of it. And then we got the love letter back recently saying that, oh, your penalty's zero. Okay, so anyway, but it's just good that we have records and we can, you know, battle that stuff. So anyway, the good news is, you know, they figured out that they were trying to penalize the wrong people.
Have a motion, we approve the treasurer's report. Have a motion, do I have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Committee reports, Jason, you have anything else for the finance committee?
No, sir, not at this time.
Ms. Teakin, do you have anything?
Yes, the personnel committee met on November 10th. That was David Jones and Ron Castro and myself. The sole purpose was to do the evaluation of our executive director. That was done, and we're going to report in executive session.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to executive officer's report, Mr. Baker.
October 24th, I met with the FISD superintendent and assistant superintendent about possibly using the high school vocational welding lab for industrial trades training center in our class, and they were very, very supportive. They made a point that prior to this, there was commingling, I don't know how, but there was commingling of students and adults, or maybe it was overlapping hours or something, and they said, you know, that just cannot be. So we talked about like having night classes, about any of the nights, weeknights from like 6 to 9. So the students are out, and that's moving along. We've got 3 or 4 that have called in and I think want to sign up, and so we're trying everything in the world to get the word out.
Is there a minimum that you have to have?
8.
8?
But it's like the Texas Workforce Commission, they have a veterans contact person, and he called me today and said, I'd like to help out, get in touch with them and so forth. I've tried bill stuffers with Phelps, and they told me no, they didn't take outside organizations, and then to run an ad, to run an ad in the paper is just too costly. It's like $142 a week, and so I was even checking about putting a flyer in the paper in an insert, but they have like 11,000 copies go out, and so that would be extremely expensive. So
How about
I'm
some
trying.
kind of poster that you could put up in the cafes or kind of restaurants?
Yeah, I've got to try that. Somebody told me, and I don't know the manager, the general manager of HEB, you know, they said if you know the guy, you can get things done. If you don't, they'll just say, know,
I don't take it.
and, so forth, but,
Even if you had to run it for a couple of weeks in the paper, this is important enough that it, the committee may want to do some investigation on it, report it back and all. I think that should be something the board should consider.
but we've got really two weeks, two papers in December, and not counting, well, it'd be like the 12th or so, and then at the end of December, and then the first week in January, and then classes start on the 12th. So we got really 3 weeks of trying to get the word out, and we can actually hold, maybe we can have a couple of classes, you know, it's
You need 20 to get 8,
you know.
to make sure that you have the class. You know, you've
Yeah,
got to have enough.
and, you know, we got a lot of people pitching in, and Ray's been very helpful in helping, you know, get to this point, but, anyway, it's looking pretty good. I attended the grant training seminar, you saw that on the financials. I met with the Alamo Corporate College director as opposed to Alamo College, and corporate will customize training, which is what we need. And they've been very, very helpful, and we actually went to the school and met after hours, looked at the lab, brought their instructor in, the staff was there, the principal and the, you know, the trainer and so forth, and everybody's just very positive. I attended, on November 13th, attended along with Ray and our engineer and reps from D&D contractors, a pre-construction meeting, and the start date was December 3rd. They met that date. I went out there, and they were basically had crews staking the right-of-way and so forth. And when I went out today about noon, they had, they were about 3/4 finished putting the silt fence up on the right side of the road as you go in. So by close of business, they would have done that, and I would imagine tomorrow or the next day for sure, they'll start scraping dirt. They've got equipment out there, and so they're moving along pretty good. On November 6th, November 6th, I showed the 23 acres remaining. I quoted 25,000 an acre, and I thought the guys, the way they talked, were gonna buy all of it, but I've sent emails and nobody responds, so. Let's see, I met with the Wilson County News editor-owner, and they have done a story that, I'm sorry, an article in last week's paper on the front page, and I thought it was very well done. And it covered all the points of, you know, if somebody reads it, is a veteran, they want to do it, then they know who to contact and where and so forth. So I'm staying out of all that. It goes from the prospective student to Alamo, line them up, and, you know, get them signed up. On November 20th, I met with Paul File about the center, and just wanting him to know that that the county would also be a shareholder in this. And I've never seen Paul so friendly in my life. I mean, we talked for 45 minutes, and he's very excited about it, said he would help in any way. I said, well, the one way that, you know, you could, if y'all have any surplus property that we might be able to buy at a discount and renovate, you know, that would keep your eyes open. And he recommended that I not talk to the outgoing county judge, but wait until the new county judge takes office, and then talk to him about the program and see if I can't spark some interest as well. I've had numerous conversations with the owner of Jack's Cafe, and we've got things lined up to start on January 14th. We'll be, I've finally gotten the chamber to be a co-founder as well, because they have a huge list of business owners, and I want this, as I told Philip before he left the office, that this, I want it to be business to business, whether they're chamber members or not. It makes no difference to me, but I want to start the businesses to communicate, and we learn to accept each other and the issues that we have, that we can speak as one voice instead of a whole bunch of individual voices about needs and so
Who's going to be
forth.
moderating it? Who's going to be in control of the meeting?
Well, actually, for the first few meetings, the first meeting or two, it's gonna be business introductions. Tell us about your business, because I've seen how referrals and cross-selling, it's unbelievable. You know, the word of mouth, it's just, a lady that works at UTSA, lives in the country, asked her folks if they knew anybody that could do, grade her road to her house. And they said, no, but you need to call Harry Grove. So she calls Harry Grove. Harry Grove said, I had told him about Ian, the owner of Cycle Ranch, and that he has a great blade man and all that. Next thing you know, Cycle Ranch is getting a grading job. And it was just word of mouth. And you know, I want that, and I want that to be a mechanism for growing business and expanding in Floresville. So basically, January 14th, 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, there'll be a continental breakfast for $6.99. That if you want it, you pay for it. I don't exactly know how to put that without sounding horrible, but anyway.
It is what it is.
This is no,
No
this
free
is-
ride.
no Santa Claus on this.
Free lunch over here.
But,
So that way we don't have to pay the room. Is that
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, if we have enough people eating, then we don't have to pay for the room. And basically, it'll be the third Wednesday of each month. That happens to be January 14th, this year, and then, next year. And then we will also, after the introductions and all that, I really don't want a formal, I don't want anything like that, because I want people to feel, you know, comfortable and come and go, but, visit, talk about, get their business neighbors and meet them and talk about things, and basically, to try and then interject things like, one of the reasons why attending, because I've done a flyer up, is to voice their employee training needs to our training center. And we hear what they say. I work with Alamo, see if we can, you know, if we have enough people for a class, we do whatever training that businesses are saying they need.
So will there be, are you gonna send out a flyer that will, sort of give the businesses a heads up that this is what this meeting is for? So it's
Yes.
not just a social, it's
Oh, that's right, yes,
more than that.
yeah, very much. And,
I understand coming through the chamber, gonna tend to blast out a lot.
well, I've asked them, just because, darn it, if I'm gonna let them be co-founder, they need to do something, darn it. And, so they can get one of those members that's a whiz on flyers or something and send one out, but
Are you then gonna look at the flyer before it goes out?
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. And then, you know, another thing is just trying to have this communication so we know, businesses know what's going on, and that it doesn't operate in a vacuum or just their small list of neighbors and so forth.
Who's the president of the chamber now?
Oh, Lord, it's not Phil, he resigned. And it's a young lady, I mean, there's one young lady, I can't remember her name, but she's CEO. And then there's another lady, Melissa, that has just gotten out of the hospital, and she's the president. So she said, you'll be working with me as a president, so.
Don't know. I don't know who it is.
I think they lost their staff person, didn't they?
Well, they replaced the staff person?
uh,
Have they replaced the staff person?
They don't, as far as I know, the last I heard, they don't have anybody in that building. There's nobody meeting the public and saying,
They're looking for someone.
and so, I think they just ran out of money, and they had to let the girl go, so, I don't know all I know is I want them to help me get this thing spread and then, go from there.
Any other questions for Mr. Baker on his executive report?
Let me just touch base, I guess, on the training that, you know, that specialized training that, you know, Tommy's trying to get started here. And I think, if I remember correctly, you know, when the FEDC, way back, a number of years back, you know, it was involved with the high school and the Alamo College District, you know, and the FEDC put up $300,000 to the school, you know, to work in conjunction in setting up vocational classes out there. Since that money has been presented to the school, there has never been anything done, you know, to correlate any classes, I guess, up to now. I know that there were numerous meetings with Dr. Zaragoza, who is one of the persons that was involved when this agreement took place, you know, at that time. But, you know, the FEDC, we did.
Do we have record of that 300,000?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We did, because eventually, 100,000 was the first payment. And then for a while, Mr. Perez kept, I guess that's when they started using monies for all kinds of things. And I was on the board at the time, and I kept asking him, I said, have you made the other payment to the school? He said, no, for this year, we're gonna let it go. And I already talked to Dr. Vincent. He said, it's okay, but maybe the following year, we'll pay the 200,000. But as it was, you know, that's the way it happened, but because of the pressures that were applied to Jesse to go ahead and submit that, because that was the agreement.
And were there stipulations for what that 300,000 was to be spent?
But for programs, for vocational programs, to work in conjunction with the high school and correlated with the Alamos College District. And at that time, the principal classes that were mentioned were classes in regards to the medical field, LVNs, what they call them?
CNAs?
Yes, and all those. And, but as a result, you know, after work, you know, and not too long ago, I mentioned this to Tommy. I said, there's bound to be some type of record, and I'm sure that
We need to get something for our money.
the school has that, you know, some type of records regarding that, because we did spend 300,000.
Talk, from memory and all, I remember that they did they had an LVN class, they had a welding class, and those people took that. There's an aviation class, there's some kids that came out with some degrees for aviation and whatnot. But that's been several years ago.
But you know, if we invest in something like that, then there should be a report back to us. 5 out of the 8 graduated. How many of them actually got jobs?
I don't think that
It'd be nice to know.
I think as of last year, when I was doing still some teaching at the high school, they did have a nursing class, still ongoing, you know, the school. Now, I don't know if it was part of the Alamo College District. With them, I don't know, but I know that because I was in, you know, I took over a class for one day, you know, to monitor those students in there.
Well, I'm sure Alamo College could provide us a number, and maybe the school district, but you would think that they'd be able to, because you would think they'd want to keep it separate to know how many was associated with that program.
And I've met with, I mean, when it started this, the real kickoff was meeting with Dr. Zaragoza and, you know, and the superintendent, and they never mentioned one thing about any of this. And so, you know, what I've tried to do is make this where I really want the industry, and I'm more Eagle Ford Shell, to pay and try to get some grant money from them to say, we can train any discipline you have through Alamo College. Now, help us financially set up a permanent center and get out of the school. But until then, there are things like this veterans that are just too good to pass up, you know, and that may be renewed, but if not, it's gonna expire in August. So we really trying to train as many veterans as.
But to track our successes with that, I think it's important to know the outcomes.
Oh, sure,
You know,
yeah.
when you have those classes, who graduates, how many actually completed the course?
Yeah, and my relationship with the people at corporate Alamo, you know, they'll do that, absolutely. I mean, they'll get certificates that they can take with them to show their potential employer, I've got this level of training and so forth. And they're actually trying to bring in some other courses that are allowed in this Veterans Grant Program. One is manufacturing processing, and another is machinist. And we need machinists. The problem is that you have to have a subfloor that it can take the weight and the movement of those huge machinist machines. And the school said, you know, we're not gonna go there. We don't have the foundation for it. And so, but then he's also trying to bring in, which would really be popular, I think, training for, and this is along with Hope Caterpillar, is they provide the equipment and they're on their site, but to train equipment operators for front-end loaders, and I think about 3 pieces of construction equipment that then, you know, you can hop on that sucker and be able to earn a great paycheck and operate, you know, 2 or 3 pieces of equipment. So they're trying to get that in.
There's so many CDLs needed out there. Is there any plans? Do they have any affiliations with any driving?
They do.
schools?
They have a driving program, but it's a third party and it's extremely expensive. And then lo and behold, when I was meeting with Texas Workforce Solutions the other day, and they were telling me that, and I never knew this, but it's not Salvation Army, but where would you drop off your?
Goodwill?
Goodwill. Goodwill, they said, operates kind of like a franchise, and that they have to report to national, but there's like a CEO for Goodwill for certain, you know, geographic areas, and there's one lady in San Antonio that's the CEO of San Antonio, and she's putting a training kind of academy to help train people, and one of those was CDL training, and it was very, very much less than the third party that Alamo services. So I've got to get in touch with her and find out that things like 3-way trucking. Terrence said that, you know, they desperately need drivers, but their company has said you got to have 2 years of successful driving. So you just can't hop in one, take a course, you have to have a track record and I guess that's, I mean, I've been told that there's such a need for truck drivers that people are going to other states to bring them in with that experience and license and so forth, so.
Any other questions? Not, we're gonna move on to, item 5, talking about board vacancy. Roland and I, terms are expiring, we're not going to be seeking reappointment. Mary Helen and round terms are expiring, they have filled out the city form requesting reappointment. Ray, Jason, and David have 1-year terms remaining. Talked about there are 3 individuals that have filled out forms to be appointed to city council. I believe that number last I heard was 11 now that have submitted a application or to be considered by the board. Also in the next paragraph, I'm led to believe that it is now on the city council agenda to, for
Yes,
consideration.
the agenda was posted today, it is on for, this is for your FEBC, and I believe Mr. Talley and I had a conversation earlier, in the week thing, that he would attend. FYI, that meeting is being held at the beer warehouse because of early voting, we can't have it here, and all other areas are booked. So yes, it is on the agenda.
Great.
However, I can't promise that the council may do the appointments, they have been known to table sometimes, so we have to wait and see. However, I did send an email, give an email to Tommy from the city's perspective, to say that in case of holding over, I'm not holding anybody hostage, but if you need to have a meeting for a quorum, those who are sitting and want to continue, it's a holdover clause that would carry so that you could have a meeting in January just in case.
I do want to point out that as of yesterday, I asked the city secretary if Ram had turned in his paper saying he wants to be reappointed, and she didn't have that.
No.
And
And
so,
the reason I haven't, because really, the way I feel about it, this is my own way of thinking, you know, and this is the way that it's been handled up until now. The city council is the one that appoints the positions, really. Each one here can say, I want to be on the board, but it's the city council that's the one that appoints. So irregardless of what we may want to be on it, if the city council doesn't feel that they want you there,
That's always been
they,
my understanding.
you know,
Yeah.
you know,
now, I just
so
want to
that-
be sure that if Ram wants to be, that he's not left out.
The application purpose is just to say, to show an interest, if somebody's interested in doing so,
Yeah.
whether if you're sitting on the board or not, it's just an interest to say, they're here, because the
You know,
council has asked staff to say,
But really, you know, you know, and I don't know if you get my point, you know, because I've seen it, where
Well,
people have shown interest, you know.
they can pick anybody out of the air if they want.
That's
It does not-
exactly what I'm
The
saying.
application does not ensure that you get on the
Right.
board.
Right.
However, the application, in case some people don't attend the meetings, and I know sometimes
Yeah.
you do, the application just says, I am interested. And so,
You know.
it's just a
Well,
way that they
And
can
I
do it.
think that the other thing that the application does is if you do have some interest, it lays out their qualifications, because it asks some questions to kind of screen, well, what have these people really done? Because there might be some folks that want to do it that,
Yeah.
you know,
But really, it doesn't make any difference, really.
It is.
Oh, I know that.
There have been people, qualified people that have indicated that they wanted to be on it, and because the
Yeah.
city council says they didn't want them, they were not put on there. So,
Well,
to me,
in my
that's a moot.
memo, I did indicate that you were interested in, that actually, for your case, that you had another year on your term, in reference to that, and that you were interested in, so, of course, that you
Yeah.
were resigning and.
He does not have another year on his term.
Oh. That
I'll-
you were interested in continuing.
Yeah,
Is
you
what
know.
is what I said in my memo.
Hmm.
I mean, Ram, I don't think they necessarily need your application personally, they probably know you very well.
Well,
So we
like I
just
say,
said
you know,
which one was
but
interested in
that-
returning,
that's
some
the way I
people
feel about
weren't.
it, you know,
And so
I
that's
understand
just
what
the
you
way
feel,
we do it.
but what I understand and what they're trying to get at, and they've been trying to get there for a couple of years, and they're moving more and more. If you don't turn an application in, you're not gonna be considered. If you turn an application in, there's no guarantee you'll get it. But if you wanna be considered, they're wanting you to turn an application in. So if you're interested, you wanna consider, I'm encouraging you strongly to turn one in, otherwise they may not.
And time is of the essence, because they're gonna be Thursday,
We're
and
meeting Thursday, and the council will be picking up their packages tomorrow.
If you want to be considered, you need to turn an application in. If you don't, that's up to you. Even if you do, you may not do it. There's 11 we know, they're only gonna be trying to fill 3 positions, so there's gonna be people that don't make it this time to serve. It could be somebody they pick, because we serve at the will of the city council.
Actually, there'll be 4 positions, right?
Pardon?
Will there be 4? It's yours, Roland's, mine, and
That's right.
Brad's.
I can correct myself. Three holdovers and 4 positions. So there's 4 positions and there's 11 applicants that we understand. I don't know if the applications are qualified, unqualified, I haven't seen them, I haven't screened them, I don't want to. But you need to turn one in if you're interested. Anybody that you know that's interested, needs to turn one in. Yeah, further, there's no, that's just a FYI, we'll know as of it. I'm not gonna hold over, and even under the holdover provision, I wanna tell you right now, I've already given, Tommy a letter of resignation to take effect at 9 a.m. in the morning. I gave my commitment, served 2 years, I'm serving my 2 years, so city council, I hope, appoints him. Moving on to number 6, we have requested that Tommy get us some estimates installing street lights out on the Rancho Grande. So you can see his estimate. I'm gonna let him briefly go over this and a little bit redundant, but the installation cost is $1,000 per light. So there's gonna be 7 lights, total of $700, a monthly bill, $13.25 for the 2 250 large lights and $9.50 for the small lights. For a total of about $74 a month. So you're talking about an installation cost of $700 and then an ongoing cost at this time of $74.
What had we appropriated for this when we did the budget?
We didn't.
Yes, we did.
Well, I think we did. Let's see.
We don't have a budget. It's not in the budget. We don't have the budget from
I
Congress
thought-
to say.
Didn't we have a discussion 2 or 3 meetings
We
ago
did,
where
but
we
we don't have the
indicated?
budget here with us tonight. And it's Connie
I
doesn't,
can't remember.
and I don't remember, it's,
To my knowledge, we did not.
No, there was a lot, there was something else.
There was a number that we put aside.
Excuse me, I will get a budget, city budget. I believe your budget's now.
Okay, thanks.
yes, we did the allocation, but I don't remember. Since the city, they can't do our budget numbers until the city gets all their input, we don't have the last 3 months.
I mean, we do have $10,000 in there for an entrance sign, and I'm working on that, and that's coming along, and I'll get an estimate, but,
What I'm referring to is that, whatever, we felt that we put there, whether we used it or not, we were covered, to
What
do
would
that.
this thing be?
We voted when we approved the
Yeah, we
budget.
go, yeah.
Is it under Rancho Grande?
Yeah.
do they,
This is, I'm just trying to find ours.
It's under 580, FEDC 41.
Let's see. Well, I mean, I don't see anything named lighting here. I mean, it might have been just lumped in. I'd have to go back to our notes.
Okay, so there's not a line item for street lighting,
We're gonna have to do something.
and that memory serves us that it was something we put in there, we don't remember. So we're talking $700 for the installation, $74 per month for the 7 lights. If we over budgeted or under budgeted,
You're still in good shape.
is not a,
I think we put more into it.
Well, I think, I mean, I don't see it listed there, but I'll have to
I
go back.
remember us talking about it.
Yeah.
I do remember.
I made some notes on the previous budget, so I'll have to go back and see.
But I,
So,
so what we're talking here is just the minimal cost of the, having the lights on, you know. But I think the installation and everything from 12, right? And I wanna say that, not to, I think, not to exceed, 15.
That's what I thought it was. But, I mean, that's,
Well, I mean, if
Somebody
the
would
board
go
feels
over it.
strongly enough about it, if we can vote on it, then between Jason and myself, we can figure out where we're gonna come up with the $700, but
no, I tell you what, in this, now that it's coming back to me now. We allocated, $12.50 for utilities, but is that, do utilities go toward that house? Is that what it
that's,
is?
you know,
Oh,
and,
okay. Well, I was thinking maybe we had that, but evidently not.
Well, in the scheme of things of what we're spending out there, $700 is not catastrophic.
in the total scheme of things, we're talking less than 1/2% of our budget.
Yeah. I
Come
mean,
on,
it's-
people.
It's not,
Come on.
one other thing I was gonna touch about, Randy, you mentioned a while ago, this is a bit off base, but it does refer to Retro Randy. In the pre-construction meeting with D&D, the guys are very amenable to work with, and we mentioned our problem about the erosion along the creek, and the hogs digging it up, and we couldn't really get it mowed properly because it tore the equipment up. And he did say, and he didn't even mention charging us for it, he said, well, you know, we're out there, I'll have somebody